you want to do?
Hi, everyone. Dawn D. Bennett-Alexander here, trying to deal with beating back the ignorance about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, because we don't like the idea that it was on the 20th of January, 2025, totally done away with by executive order, but still very much needed. And the reason we think that that was able to be done is because people simply didn't know what it is. So for every podcast we bring you, our question is always, what does blank have to do with DEI? Because it shows up for people in a lot of ways that they're not aware of. And it would be very unseemly to have gotten rid of it under the circumstances of it being what it actually is, as opposed to what it's been portrayed to be by politicians who have some axe to grind and something to benefit by having you really not know what it is and by getting rid of it. It just doesn't make sense to do that.
James Felton Keith is an award-winning mechanical engineer, labor economist, and serial entrepreneur. Most recently, he founded Inclusion Score, a venture-backed insurtech, and lectured on inclusion insurance at the University of Georgia's Terry College of Business. As an enterprising international relations leader, he established the first international diversity and inclusion standard under ISO 30415 in 2021. This effectively reshaped commercial insurance underwriting to incentivize organizations across 163 nations to be culturally inclusive by connecting their employment insurance to an inclusion score. Via the Keith Institute, James has authored and edited multiple books, including Inclusionism, his biopolitical philosophy, which is at the forefront of international relations and diplomacy. As an organizer, his data unions redefined the labor movement and people's personal data as the natural resource driving all corporate productivity. He co-founded the Ethics of Personal Data Collection series at Anthem Press and wrote the book Data is Labor. He and his institutions had either written or consulted on all of the Western world's cyber policy during the 2010s, including Europe's General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR. JFK has founded multiple companies across the nonprofit and tech sectors. His expertise is in ethnography of technology, or the study of the culture of tech. Over the past 20 years, and between 5 continents, he has been obsessing about economic inclusion and how to get equity in the hands of the people who have increasingly less, while the world becomes more productive from their data's input. Working between government and businesses, he regularly says it's necessary to have the mind of a CEO and the heart of a social worker to solve real people's problems. His career transitioned to the public life after starting LGBT Chamber of Commerce and Pride Nights at all 4 big box American sports franchises: NBA, NHL, MLB, and the NFL. James has been appointed to the Cabinet of Elected Officials, taken over for and advised CEOs, academics, diplomats, and nonprofiters. James is an elected member of the New York Democratic Committee and is a frequent keynote at global venues like the United Nations, Future Tech Congress, Data Protection World Forum, and the World Pride Human Rights Forum, to name a few. Want to know James's values? Inclusionism. He has 3 tenets to be specific. 1, we have intrinsic value. 2, we derive it from each other. And 3, we are owed equity from that value. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming James Felton Keith, or better yet, the next congressman for the 13th District of New York. Welcome, James. Keith, Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for it's fun to be here. It's always fun to talk to Dr. PA about everything. I guess before we got on, for everyone that wasn't here, we're talking about all my medical issues and if I'll be here tomorrow. But anyway, it's good to be here. It's sunny. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Yeah.
So it's good in New
You
York.
can't leave it at that.
Yeah, it's sunny in New York. It's 100 degrees in New York, so I'm hiding from the outside. I will have to go out in a minute and get on the train. I'm actually doing a talk at NYU today at their School of Global Affairs about the international standard for DEI. And we're going to talk to a bunch of the international relations students. I guess they call it global affairs. I feel like global affairs and international relations, they're trying to separate them. They shouldn't, but whatever. I'm getting together with one of my colleagues that we co-authored a series of books called The Ethics of Personal Data Collection in International Relations. That's a mouthful. But yes, we're going to go down there and talk to her class and hang out in this 100-degree weather in the city. Yeah. And I'll see if I can.
It's in the amphitheater?
No, I wish. It's just in I don't even know if they have an amphitheater down there, but it's like in a big lecture hall kind of situation. NYU is scattered throughout the city, so I don't know if they have any really cool venues like an amphitheater. Everything is just in an old gray building. Now Columbia has some cool amphitheaters, but they're kind of one pocket. I should say Columbia has been buying up the West Side, so they're not one pocket anymore. They're kind of the real estate overlords. A lot of people I know uptown don't like them and how much of the city they've been gobbling up. Anyway, yes, it'll just be a classroom downtown. I've said too much. Yeah.
No. It'll be interesting, James, for people to see how you went. We're bringing you in as DEI. Okay. I started off with this. You didn't start off with this.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And I love the way we met because I had been for the first 3 years on the task force for the International Standards Organization, putting together what was going to be the sort of precursor to all of this kind of formally, which is the idea of what would it be? What would we have if we needed to sort of put out on paper what we would require of a chief diversity officer? Okay, that was the only thing. And we would meet periodically to come up with ideas about this. And after 3 years, they changed the architecture of that in some kind of way. And I fell off of that. And 7 years later, I get an email in my inbox saying that there's going to be some webinar on this international standard. And I said, gee, I wonder if this is the same international standard that I worked on for 3 years. Yeah. So I'm going to go to the webinar. I go to the webinar. It is you. It is awesome. It's you and inclusion score. Yeah. And I did something I rarely do. I wrote in the chat box, this is awesome. And I said, I know other people are telling you this, but I wrote the first textbook in employment law. I've been doing this for a long time. I do this all the time. And I have never seen anything even approaching what you're talking about, which is trying to standardize the whole idea of DEI. So it was really just absolutely wonderful for me to see this, having worked on it for so long. And then you respond with, oh, we know who you are.
We know.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? I don't know these people. What is he talking about? And you said, can we contact you later? And we have been going at it ever since.
We have. It's been nonstop. It's been not.
It has. And you ended up, you sent me something. I think you probably sent me a text saying, you think the University of Georgia would be interested in housing some sort of certification program on this. And I happened to be with my grandchildren on vacation at the time. And I sent my dean a text, and it was really long, an email. And I said,
you do that, long text messages.
Yes, I'm good for that, aren't I, Renee? But I want him to have every single thing he needs in order to be able to say yes to this. I don't want him to have to ask me any questions. And my response came back, yes, exclamation marks. Not just one, but more than one. And it took off. The University of Georgia became the Terry College of Business became the first one in collaboration with Inclusion Score, first in the world to have a certification program, online certification for anybody in the world to be certified in the standard. And the thing that was going to make that, particularly for the US, because it's now been accepted in over 160 countries. But the thing that made it interesting to me and so compelling was that it had been requested, what you ended up doing had been requested by the risk management folks, because they had finally looked at what I had been talking about for 40 years, which is, y'all, these are unnecessary risk you're taking, and it's money you're paying out that you don't have to pay out. I am the answer to your problems. If you took care of this stuff in the first place, you wouldn't have all these claims. And of course, they're worried about the money they're having to shell out as claims. And finally came to you and said, we need to do something about this. And went to the insurance industry in all 50 states and 5 territories, signed on and said, we will require this certification if somebody wants to get insurance. That's a game changer. Because you can't, if you're a business, operate without the insurance. And knowing that this resource was out there, they didn't just throw you out and say you got to have the certification. They had you set up a certification process, the learning, the software program. They could get the certification and then be ready. And while all of that has not come to fruition yet, we're still on sort of the front end of that. I love it that you are audacious enough to say, yes, we can do this, and then end up doing it all over the country. And still, we just laugh so much while we're doing it. I mean, we just have such fun being together.
I think we have to. I think at the end of the day, this is fun work. I think it's necessary that the work is fun. I remember when I started my career in autos, and this older engineer would always come in as we were drinking coffee, etc. And he always go, are you having fun? Like, are you having fun? Are you having fun? I was like, why does he keep asking me if I'm having fun? It's like, if you're not having fun, you shouldn't be here, right? So I think in so much of our work, or so many other people's work, they're not really having a great time doing it. But I think this stuff is fun. I think the conversations are fascinating when you're looking organization by organization at, how they operate, what their culture is. And it's funny, I love that you tell the whole timeline, because I was just on the phone with a private equity company in Boston earlier today. And one of our investors who introduced us to them, he just generally said on the call, I never thought you all would speak to each other. And then the guy, this middle-aged white private equity investor, he's like, yeah, of course. He's like, culture is not political. Like, it exists in every organization. It will happen when you get more than one person in the room, no matter what. And we need a better way to measure how we see what that culture is, so we see if we can avoid risks. And this particular company has bought up a bunch of companies that operate in the space. They're keen to learn about the standard. They like the standard. But, back to your story, everyone across the globe who has started to administer the standard in their countries, in their part of the globe, came through the Terry College at the University of Georgia. They have an internal statewide regulatory body for certifications in ISO standards in France. And the woman who runs that, she came through the Terry College. The group of folks in India, East and West, they all came through the program at the Terry College. The folks in South Africa, in Finland and Denmark and the UK, where I'll be in 3 weeks. They all came through the Terry College. So, yeah, we do a good job, I think, in this country of building that core infrastructure. We don't always honor it. I think we're in a difficult place right now politically, but I have total confidence that we're like 18 months away from an explosion of demand for DEI rigor and how we vet organizations. We see the man in the White House is sort of falling apart right now, but as that continues to happen through November of next year, I think we'll see a wave of apologies from companies who want to better build on their DEI infrastructure going forward. And, quite frankly, it'll all be based on the work that you started doing, 45 years ago. I'm almost at that 45 mark, and I think you started doing this around the time I got here, which is full disclosure for everybody listening in, how we knew who you were, because when I was going to B school, we were reading your employment law book, in the late 2000s. And I'm not exactly sure how you got in that first webinar, but I'm sure we probably just spammed you and you responded to the email. So thank goodness you read your email. You're collecting data, like who would we hit up if we could hit up anyone? And it's like, you're on the list. In those early days, I was just kind of scraping data and sending people an invite. I thought, I'll do a dozen of these if I have to get some traction. And I think it's an act of faith. I didn't know that, it would be Georgia or it would be you. I was like, but somebody will need this and use this, because in my old work as an engineer, we use ISO standards to do everything else. So I was like, this has to be the logical, the normalized way to move forward.
Right.
And now we're here, but it's
That's
really
that's beautiful.
Yeah. So now we're here.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear you say that. A couple of things. Number one, that was my question. So now I have a question.
Yes. Yeah.
Donnie, that was my question.
What-
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole ISO, the training, Georgia,
UGA.
Georgia,
Which is the number one risk management program in the country. So it's perfect for you.
Yeah.
which is fantastic to know. And it kind of, you started at the end of what you were saying, kind of went into what my question is before I tell you this. You said the example of if you get more than one person, then it's cultural. Or is that what you said? It's cultural. We say the same thing in politics.
Right. He's saying culture is not political. Like it's just a matter of fact. It will exist. Yeah.
Right. And then in politics, setting poli sci, the first thing you say is, if you have two people in the room, that's politics. So it's kind of like, the same behaviors come out, whether you're talking about cultural or social behaviors versus political. Those things already mean something in the context of their individual, but they also span everything else, right? So, we bring our culture to politics, we bring our culture to education, all of that. Yeah. So I just wanted to comment on that. But my question is actually, now that this has been a tried and true practice dealing with ISO, I used to deal with it in my old work, dealing with quality assurance, quality products, making sure quality standards, process improvements. So I had things that I had to follow too with ISO. But now that there was never a president that stopped us. So what do you think is happening now?
I mean, look, we're stagnating for sure. Just like when George Bush #2 stopped, stem cell research. I think we lost a good decade on cancer research. We'd probably be a bit farther. I would probably be a bit younger than I am right now. If I probably have like a spray to be like 20 years younger right now, and I'm working on it. I'm working on it right now. But the point is,
I want to be the first one. I'm your guinea pig.
Yeah, I look at progress like a staircase with periodic plateaus. We keep taking step by step. Every now and again, you get a little plateau and you take some more steps. We're at that point, and I think our politic is regularly a reflection of whatever our fears are. We have moved really fast and changed really fast, especially in the 21st century. And while I do not agree with any sort of conservatism, just philosophically, I'm way left. I can understand and empathize with why it exists. There's a general fear, not just in the part of society that voted for Donald Trump, but I think it's pervasive. And it's also not only in this country. But as that subsides and as we get used to the time that we're existing in, I think we'll come right back to what standards, what institutions do we have to come together and caucus on and build quality controls, if you will, from. And that's just what we've been doing since the beginning of time, right? And as a mechanical engineer at my core, I'm always, giving deference to that. That's really how I got here. When I became aware of the standard, I was working with the cybersecurity standard. And I think when people hear cybersecurity, they think this is going to be very technical, but it's not a technical standard. It is a standard to identify and educate people at companies, organizations of any sort, right, about how to avoid putting tech at risk. So it's a really human standard. And when I heard about a standard for DEI, I know when people hear that, they go, is this a standard moral? Like, I've gotten that question before. Like, are you going to tell me how to think about the world or God? And it's like, no, this is a standard to understand who exists in the organization. So we can educate them about someone a little bit different than you exist over here or over there. And once you do that, you can understand what your culture is and deploy it better. You can deploy remedies. You can deploy, if your culture, forget age, race, gender, you name it. It could be a culture of paranoia around specific things. It could be a culture of, it could be specific to people's income. It could be specific to all sorts of things. But the thing is, there's a methodology to engage it. And so by the time I heard about the ISO standard, which was much after Dr. BA, I think I would say it was around 2018. I was running for Congress, and because I was doing a lot of international relations work and engineer, people introduced me to the standard. And the guy who was leading the caucusing of it at that time, Ephinus Henderson, who's out of Seattle. And I looked at what they were doing. And I was like, oh, yeah, we can do the same thing we're doing with cyber with this. But what I didn't say is, as a cyber guy, I was really rooted in cyber insurance. I was like, well, if this standard works, if we can test it out, then we just tie it to insurance. And then that was the big aha moment. I was like, oh, the price of a lack of inclusivity is the price of rising insurance premiums. And I started looking at the lawsuits, and I saw that as more women gained more autonomy and were coming out of college, women my age and younger, the lawsuits continued to go up, and the price of doing business was going up. And then I realized, oh, this is a big market, and it's a growing market. I think, when Dr. BA started, I couldn't say this was a big market in 1980, 81, 85, 90, 95.
People didn't even know what it was.
Well, right. But as autonomy, income, and dignity start to scale with women in the workforce, let's say women get bank accounts in 72, by 92, Mary J. Blige's album drops. I think it's a really significant benchmark for like what we not gonna take no more, right? and then a couple albums go by, and she walking upstairs, and she doing Taco Bell commercials. But by 02 or 2012, she's an older artist, and these new ones really not having it, right? So by 2012, 50 years later, you go, I'm gonna sue you. And then during the pandemic in 2022, with these 22-year-olds who were 22 in 2022, the world is radically different. And so that market, right, is really a result from that seminal work from 82, based on the bank accounts that women got in 72 from Dr. BA. So, so we thank you, or really the women of 2022, thank you for what you were doing in 1982. I was one, by the way. But a market happens, right? I'm a believer in, because we've seen it happen over and over again in human history. We've seen markets proliferate, and they happen via participation. And the people who run the companies of America and the world don't want to see that participation dissipate. And that is our best argument for inclusion. And people go back and forth about political and economic frameworks. As I put my economist hat on, I'm not pro or against whatever people think or assume capitalism means, but I like to think about, my favorite word, inclusionism. I think we are trending in an uncontrollable way towards a more inclusive space and time. If we can have it, without chaos, without war, without death, without famine. I think we are living in this technologically constructivist space that is deliberately taking us towards a time of more inclusion, because survival demands it. And so I think that's really what we're seeing in the DEI space. Is we could talk about all the other groups, but it's really women with bank accounts for 55 years. And these 25-year-old women will sue your ass. And that's different. My mom wouldn't have sued. She might now, but she like, I'm about to retire.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of what's happening. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, mine was taking us off topic, so I'm just gonna let you know how.
About Mary J. We can talk about Mary J. more.
Well, it wasn't about Mary J. as much.
Girl.
It was just,
I love some Mary.
It's like you said that I was having this discussion with my friend last night, who we both see this event that happened with this young man who was in a car, black man who's in a car and got the window smashed in on him, snatched out of the car. But before that, they sucker punched him and they pulled him out the car and then punched him some more and brought him on the ground. And because they brought up all the stuff that happened behind that, all of that, the things that his background and what his being arrested would mean, they forgot the part. She jumped right to the part of, why didn't he just comply? He was already having all this thing. He was riding dirty. And while I understand that to some degree, we're not there anymore. Those days are over. And his right was to stay in that car, not give over his license without being told why he was given his license. They wanted him out of the car immediately. That's illegal. It's against his constitutional rights. Whether he's riding dirty or not is irrelevant. And anything that they gain from it at this point is irrelevant, because even if they're right about everything, it doesn't matter anymore, because they violated him in the beginning. And that's the point. But kids these days, as much as we think they're just kids and they don't, they're never going to be what we thought we were at that time in our heads, they understand that.
They do.
Even if they're riding dirty, they get it. You can't violate me, and I'll let you go ahead and do what you have to do, and then I'll just see you. Like you said, I'll see you.
I'll see you. I mean,
that's the only way it seems that people get to understand it.
I think if you don't live in a city, and by the city, I mean Manhattan, not even all of New York City, you got to drive. And so you likely, I've been that kid before. 20 years ago, I was riding around like, I didn't know, maybe I didn't have my license. I had a busted up car, tail light was missing. Yep. It's just it's a product of poverty.
I do.
Right. I think these kids do know better. And look, from what I've seen, I was talking to this young graduate who's trying to get in law school. I actually told him, Dr. B, I was like, he should talk to you, not me. I'm not a lawyer. I think people think I'm a lawyer, but I'm not. Just argue with lawyers all day. And I always tell them how wrong they are about everything, but they tell me they're right. And we were just talking about. But look. I
started talking with Dave's lawyers, and I was like, "We keep you out of trouble."
We'll get to that.
It's like, yes, James, that word matters. That word matters. I'm telling you, it matters.
But this kid was asking me, who wants to be a lawyer. He was a bit apprehensive because he thought, older people on the internet talking about the young generation. He's like, well, what do you think about us? And I was like, I think you're great, kiddo. Like, tell me your story. Don't be worried. I'm not gonna call you a bastard or anything like that. But it is my experience, and I don't have that much experience, just a couple of decades. That the young people always know better. I think Huey Newton was a much more wise and prolific activist than Malcolm X, and I like Malcolm, but I'm a Huey fan. I think he did a great job of talking about everybody's inclusion and human rights above and beyond whatever civil was. I love all the kids of the 70s that adopted Black when all the old people told them, no, we color the Negroes or whatever. And I like all the hip hop kids from the 90s when my parents were like, y'all doing too much. And we were like, we gonna fight the cops, because we doing push-ups now. They weren't as in shape as we were in the 70s, than we were in the 90s. And all these new kids, they radically outpace us. The kids always know better. They're always fine. I think it is incumbent upon folks who've been around for a minute to try to learn from the kids. And we always do a poor job of doing that. I try to spend some of my time trying to figure out what they're doing and why they're doing it. But yeah, that boy in that car, he said later with Ben Crump, he's like, I was scared. But he knew better. He knew his rights. And I think it was brave, because a lot of us ride around like I wear this shirt and try to brush my hair in a way to avoid confrontation. Like, it's really rooted in fear. The more I try to dress up like a tall, straight white man, that's fear. And I'm trying to sell something or whatever. And so we're not there yet where everyone can just walk out of their house and be radically themselves. But these kids want to be a little bit more than we did. And we did a little bit more than our parents. And the cool thing now is everyone's still around. My grandmother is still around at 96, never had a job, never drove a car, from Noonan, Georgia. And she just had her first great grandbaby. And I just wonder what are things, do they
mind blowing
in her mind, right?
No, yes.
James, when you think about, and I love it, I haven't taught for over 40 years, I'm with you. Young people have a very different mindset than we do. And I think we need it all. I encourage students, go demonstrate. Do it within the rules. I mean, don't go throwing bottles and, setting fires and stuff. But we need to hear, I know. That's why but we need to hear that, because the world they live in doesn't have the same, they don't have the same stuff. And they don't have the same, they're not worried about a mortgage or supporting kids and stuff like that. And that makes a difference. That's why all of those people that I was with in the late 60s, early 70s, when I was in undergraduate and law school, it's like, where did they go? That was the hippies, the free love movement, all of that. Well, they got a job and they
got a job, right?
All of that in the government.
You gotta do it right.
Well, that's true. But being able to look back and take the knowledge that you get from that time, give it to those younger ones. I don't want it to tamp you down. I don't want it to make you not go out there and demonstrate.
Right.
Do it, but just know we learned some things that while we were doing that you need to be aware of now. I don't want to make it so that you don't do it. I just want you to know what you're up against, because their ideas can be so fruitful.
Totally.
It's sort of, and I often have to tell this to students who come back to see me, and I have things from when they were there, like a poem or something, and they say, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And I'd say, this is the real you. This is the you before you got out there and had to have a job, have to dress up, have to have transportation, so you needed a job that paid well, all of that stuff. Real you.
Yeah.
And that's, we need voices out there.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think it's a natural process, because I agree. I got some kids calling me outside right now about some real estate projects they want to protest. I was like, well, I don't walk. I need to come out. It's got to be targeted. It was like, that's y'all do that. I'll back you up. I'll make some calls. But again, the young people should do it now while they have time to do it. I remember, like, I thought I was old at this point, but that was like 15 years ago. I was like an Occupy Wall Street kid. I was sleeping on an Occupy, and I remember we got to meet with Kathleen Cleaver, because she was teaching at Yale at the time. And, she was just hanging out, looking like, my auntie or my grandma. If people are not familiar, Kathleen Cleaver was the only woman to lead, the Panthers back in the day. Really yellow chick with a big afro. And she was telling me how we didn't have enough oomph, basically, because there wasn't a violent threat. And we tried to explain our strategy to her, and it was really to decentralize everything, like every movement, whether it was the climate movement, or the women's movement, or the movement for Black Lives, or the LGBT movement. All these different movements were kind of in one nucleus. And we were telling her a big fear was having a Huey or a Malcolm or a Martin or what have you, and being able to subdue the movement by targeting one leader. And she was like, yeah, I hear you. But again, there was a difference in opinion. She was like, yeah, but a gun works. And I was like, you're not lying.
Oh my God.
But I'll never forget that. Yeah, she was teaching law in like 2011 in Connecticut. And so we go back and forth. It's just right up the train. So, again, you learn, we agree to disagree. We went and did what we did. But in my view, in my mid 40s now, when I look at every movement that's happening now, whether it is climate or racial or gender or other based, I think they're all mimic what we were trying to design with Occupy. And this essentially the theme is the decentralization of the thing. And even with this DEI standard, to bring it back to the ISO standard, I had a lot of people early on that we trained at Georgia who wanted to, spin out businesses and become sort of super consultants and add this to their portfolio of service offerings. I thought that was great. And I try to build a network to say, like, we should all support each other, pitch in, so we act like a bigger company. When you get a client, I'll come in, or vice versa. And all these Europeans that we trained, mainly Brits and French people, were like, well, we're kind of competitors, so I don't want to stifle you here and there. And I was like, this isn't an industry yet. We can't be competitors. We're not competing. Number one, you're not going to be as good as I am, because I just told the Mary J. Blige story and it went off flawlessly. And you can't do that. You're not as good as me. It's like, but what we can do is decentralize who the leader is to prop each other up and build this into every other economy. Because you're not going to be as cute as me doing this. Like, I'm 45 looking like this. Lady, you can't do what I'm doing.
Oh, God. Love him.
And she was like, you got a good point. I was like, of course I got a good point. I caught you. I made this up. Like,
it's crazy.
I'm Black. I gotta make up the revolution before you can live in it, lady. So anyway, the point is, the objective was always to decentralize everything.
My stomach.
And so, in my opinion, this was still an occupying strategy. We're occupying insurance with this DEI standard, and we're tying the price of bigotry to capitalism. Like, we're gonna make them hang it around their necks. So it's just an old activist
it's interesting you say that. It's interesting you say that last part, because there's a guy I'm following now on Instagram that his whole series of titles is "Racism is Expensive," and he just goes to each. One was about Arkansas, one was an Arizona story, one was a Wyoming story. I mean, it was just these stories that it's costing people, and they're not Black people talking. These are white people talking.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how this is really costing them lives. And like, we know that it does, because that's what everything leads back to, is how are we going to ensure people have lives that they can effectively live, so that they can manage whatever their needs are for their living in society, right? And we're not looking after that. That's, to me, what government is about. Government is about making sure that dollars you pay continue to get regenerated into the society that we live in, so that people of all forms, races, creeds, colors, and economic backgrounds, social backgrounds, can thrive without having to go into some kind of, this world that we now have, which is you're in, remember Twilight Zone? When they did that, kid had the ability to send you to the playground, the play box, or the field, the cornfield, or something.
Yeah.
Where he just banished you out. And then, you just had to live out there and deal with all the whatever the environment has for you. That's what we're doing to people who are me, you, all of the people who are not the 895 that live on 90 or 80% of the wealth, or 70% of the wealth of this country, the GDP of this country.
Yeah.
So we are trying to make sure that we stay relevant, and we have to support each other in doing that. And again, why we can't ever talk about something that is not going to be diverse is because we are diverse. You made us diverse. You created a diverse society. And to now say we want to put the genie back in the bottle is ridiculous, because the genie, well, we know why Black people are not just African. Because you couldn't keep your genie in your bottle.
No one can keep the genie in the bottle. When the Africans start shaking back and forth, you chase it down.
On this screen, look at the 3 faces on this screen. That wasn't that fault.
Oh yeah, I'm a product of rape. I'm like 51%. Like,
did you say rape?
I'm what rape looks like. I'm a sexy rape victim.
Don't do that, because that might encourage people as wonderful as you are.
They come at me. I want a round of applause when I walk outside. They not.
Because no one was consenting in enslavement. All right, it was rape, and this is why you have this whole new race that exists in this country. And so the diversity part can never be that. Because if we're going to say that, then, I'm going to go ahead and claim my European parts. Because isn't that part of who I am? Isn't that what we're saying? I mean, if Melania can say it, can I?
Exactly. I try to figure out where I can leverage it. I mean, look, I think I always get told, again, Andy and my sister, I was like, don't make a rape joke. So you don't want to make one. And I don't know what it's like to be kind of a woman in the world. I've spent, my life being a relatively tall dude. But I mean, we are. When I look at my grandmother, when I mentioned earlier, the 96-year-old, she's very fair skinned with freckles. And we track all the white people to her side of the family. She's my paternal grandmother. But we see it. We see all the Scottish and nomadic Ashkenazi Jewish in her group. And that's really, at the end of the day, it's like Nigerian, Scottish people, and Jews from Ukraine. I mean, and again, it's difficult when you put a timeline on those cultural casts. I'm just going to say it's like Eastern Europeans, Anglo-Saxons, mixing probably here in Louisiana and Georgia with a bunch of Nigerians and people from that kind of Nigerian areas, and Benin, etc. It's a lot of countries now, but it's like 10 tribes and some Scottish people, and that's it. And that's how you end up with me,
which is part of the UK, right? So
look like wherever I am. I always make this joke as we travel around. I was like, I look like all the other lightly toasted people of the planet, whether you in Latin America or the Middle East or Asia. I was like, I could be anybody. I was like,
And that goes with what you were saying about the younger people too, because they have been brought up to be so diverse through all sorts of things, mixing in ways that traditionally had not been done generations before, or being exposed to media that was so mixed and having so much media available to you. I grew up in had probably one, and I grew up in DC. And there really was only one radio station for you, right? That you would really be interested in. There was like one for the Black folk. There was one for the white folk. I mean, you could turn the dial to something else, but it wasn't going to feel like you.
Right.
And the same thing with programming that we see, for all the media that we imbibe, you can choose what you want. That's never happened before. And when that happens, you get all sorts of input that gives you a very different outlook on what the world is supposed to look like. And when you see kind of diversity, you just are like, what is the problem? I mean, why can't we just be exactly what you said, Renee, who we are? We are diverse. Why are we even fighting?
Yeah. I think there are some people who, again, they were more comfortable when they didn't have to make a consideration or ask a question. But you're right. When I look at, even in my last book, in this book, Data is Labor, I was just giving this talk, and this young woman came up. She said, my favorite thing that you wrote in the book is that to be human is a story. And I think in this generation, or really as every generation has moved on, we've told more stories about who we are. If we look at the cultural identifier data from the great generation, I don't know why we call them the greats. I mean, I know why, but it's debatable. To the boomers, you all, to the Xers, to the millennials and onward, there are more cultural identifiers. And like we have a graph in the book that just shows that when you get to the modern era where everyone's telling their story, not just Walter Cronkite on CBS, even if we look the same, if the story is slightly different, then there's a differentiation. It's why when I meet people who do DEI work, as I did, and we were in Chicago a couple weeks ago, and this woman who ran HR at this insurance company say, we all got in this work, and they think they're doing, God's good work, and saying, it's like, we all got in this work so we wouldn't have to do this work, as if it can end. I was like, but every time when these new kids are born and they tell you a story, I'm from Chicago versus Detroit, which is a cultural differentiator, because people from Chicago sound like they're from Mississippi, and people from Detroit sound like they from Canada, in my opinion. There's a big cultural differentiation there, and that is diversity. So we never get away from this work until we get to 8 billion different types of being, or we'll max out around 10 billion types of being in about 30 years. But I think that's what it just means to be human. We will get to a point where everyone is hearing everyone's story, and CBS is an afterthought. I mean, Larry Ellison's son just bought CBS, so they're getting ready to go down. My favorite show, CBS Sunday Mornings, it's probably not going to be worth watching in a couple of Sundays. But, we had a good go. Everything has to come and go. It's like an ex, She was nice. She got to get out. She can't keep
ex is an ex-girlfriend or ex-wife?
I got a lot of exes. Yeah, a lot of exes over the years, but you got to let them go. You got to, you got to give them a check and be like, you got to get out. It's your time.
You giving checks? Can I get your ex?
First and last.
I'm getting checks.
Yeah, get first and last month's rent, because it's expensive. It's expensive in the Northeast.
Yes.
Because it's a lot of people up here. And again, it goes back to that data matters, because the transactions, all those stories, it creates the economy. And so, that's where we are. All the X's.
I totally believe in your data, like the saying in the saying goes in my field was, in God we trust, all others bring data. Because we trust data, because data is objective. We don't care all of these things that you want to put into it. We care about the demographics, of course, because that matters to how things are trending. Yeah. But if you say that you are all for, ICE and everything they're doing, it doesn't matter to the researcher. They just want to know your data, your information, so they can put it in an aggregate information so that they can present to the populace. But data is objective. So that's why it's so important that you are doing what you're saying, that you're talking about, because if you don't have, and of course data is as good as what you input, which is why you have to have a research model that's set up so that your data captures what you're looking for, the right questions, how they're phrased, and who's doing the proctoring is also important. So, but I know all of that, but it makes a difference to have someone who does understand all of that to be at the helm of doing it.
that for James, that's the new, that's really the new frontier.
I think it is.
For him, data is something that he feels like we have not been paid to give up. And it's allowing other people to use that data without compensating us for tremendous financial gain.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
We ought to
I
be
worked in it.
It's the economy.
I absolutely worked in it, and I know that is exactly right. You never, the people who, because the theory that the people who are doing the research are thinking, their theory that they've tried to stand behind forever,
Yeah.
is that if they pay you, then they're influencing your thoughts.
Yeah.
But paying someone for their time is not influencing their thoughts. You can make that very clear. The proctoring can be very.
They can always
sorry.
pay afterwards and say, "Oh, that
Yes,
was
absolutely.
that was a nice."
Yeah, I like the afterwards model.
And here
I
you
like
go. Here's your check. Thank you for participating. Yes,
Exactly.
I've done it both ways.
I like it, but I like
Yeah.
I like the and after, right? Like, I think to reference Beyonce, like when she goes like, pay me in equity. Yeah, pay me if my input, if it's not that valuable, and the thing that we wanted to make together or you want to make based on me doesn't do that well, that's fine. But if it is extremely valuable, I want my micro piece of that value over time. So I do like to think about a wage as a retainer for our time. And then if that time or the input from that time scales in value over time, I need a piece of that. And I think to what Dr. BA was saying, in the next version of this world, I was just talking with a bunch of labor leaders about this. I think we'll have to make better arguments for income, not necessarily wages, separate income based on our productive input. So like even this DEI work, like I kind of made a pit stop on it because I realized it's something that needed to be done. There's a revenue stream in it. It's a piece of the pie. But she's right. Like if I think about what I'm most passionate about, it's just really my own value. I do feel like I should be getting more, and I'm not. If as cool as I am, even when I referenced Beyonce and she was talking about making songs in 1999, she was just referencing my culture. Like I was cool in high school and college. I wasn't, And if you just referencing what I was doing, like Little John took this song we made in Atlanta. I'm not gonna say it 'cause it's a bit raunchy. But it was like from the window to the wall, and there were some other words after that. It was a chant that we used to lead at parties I would throw. And he would just come. He was funny looking. He wanted to be like us. Yes. And he made a bunch of money on it. I'm not saying we need to be paid up front, but there should have been some after effects from that. What I'm saying is we have data and digital, because not all data is digital. IBM used to make static data back in the day. We have digital evidence, though, of our cultural contributions. And even when we talk about artists and like them wanting to keep their value, we think about what Taylor Swift is going through with Spotify and other groups, and like, oh, well, this is my worth, my value, and you're taking away from me. It's like, sure, they might be taking a bit too much from you, but you also owe the culture. If you are just the lead communicator on the behalf of the culture that I come from, and that's fine. Let's say you sing better, you're taller than me, you look better in a cowboy hat than me, Madam Carter, fine. You still represented me. And if you are just a reflection of the culture that you see from me, then you owe me. All of these people owe me. I'm literally over here in Harlem being cool every single day. Everybody owe me some. Every single person. Every hand I've ever shook. Like they different. They different after they shake mine. They enlightened. I see them lighter. Anyway, to the data, right? And not just paying people a retainer for their time.
Like a Superman handshake.
We need to pay. I was associated. My mom told me I was good too much, so I owe her as a result because I believed her, and I can't shake it now. So she got in my head, but she tells me the same thing.
I love it.
Run fast and bring us back something. You do it for us. We also need to instill that in young people. Like whatever they're doing, however extraordinary they are here being, they doing it for us. They're not doing it for that. They're not self-made. I hate it when Tupac said that. I stopped listening to him altogether when he started talking about being self-made. I was like, he's an idiot. Tupac, 50 Cent, Ben Franklin, They all wrote books and songs about being self-made, and they are all ridiculous. Ben Franklin is a thief, and he ugly. I mean, compared to a rape baby like me. So they
You
all
said it here.
said it here. You quote me on that. He too ugly to be on $1. They need to put me on there. Look at this. I'm kidding.
And I'm
Guys.
looking and
I'm
I'm
kidding.
loving it. I love all of it. You know I do. I just you know, hey, if you don't like you, who is gonna like
Who
you?
gonna like you? Right. If you don't like you, who
You
gonna
know?
like you?
Shoot.
No, I'm being
You
silly.
know, there's a way to do this hybrid. I've done it hybrid. So as far as the compensation for your whatever you're presenting as research, as a research participant, you can do both payment and then ongoing payment. So you look, for example, that's what Nielsen does.
Yes, that is what
So
Nielsen
you
does.
already know that can happen, and it's considered legitimate research, right? You don't have a television show or the station that doesn't look at Nielsen rating. So there's a way to do this, but when it comes to our people, I agree with you. I used to do research studies for things that had to do with some form of Social Security or some form of Medicaid, and of course we never paid them, never. But other research projects got paid. So there's a way to do it.
What I'll say on the data thing is, so number one, you're right. Like this is a model that we've done before. I don't think from a policy and a public communication standpoint, we've talked about the scale with which products are made. So I'll give you an example. Let's consider for a minute a decision as a product, right? Because companies are only making two things. They're making products. We call them goods. Products are things you can touch, tangible things, and services, things you can't touch. And they only make them through two types of input. They're either taking subject matter expert input, some employee that knows something about a market, right? And they may have support staff, engineers, admins, you name it. They're part of the input to this product, or they're taking data directly from the market. It used to be, let's go back 100 years, really expensive to find a product market fit. Period. You know, you had to use trial and error. You're not really sure if your market will really adopt this product well. You're not sure if the functionality or whatever is what's needed. And product improvement took a lot of time. But in the modern day, it is less and less expensive to create products because we have so much input around what product is actually being demanded. And to be very specific from an economic standpoint, if anyone goes to the Bureau of Labor Statistics or the Department of Labor, they have a bunch of cute videos on there and they define what a product is. And a product is a measure of inputs. So input could be, they tell a cute story about a woman who creates a birdhouse. There's wood that goes into it, paint, and her own intuition, whatever, that's data. Mm-hmm. And it comes out with an end product that is worth a market price. And in the old world, in the old economics, in the Chicago economics, the price for all this input to a product would be the price the consumer pays. And it would be deemed an even trade. I make a thing, you pay the price, all the value has been transacted properly, and we're done. But in the modern day, I do not just make a product on my own, adjacent from you, and bring it to you and you pay a market price. I make a product on you. You are a part of the input. You are creating the demand. You are supplying the demand. We used to differentiate supply and demand, but now it's this ever-evolving circle of you are supplying the demand that we will then productize and supply right back to you. I would only sell you a pink shirt if I knew you were wearing a pink shirt. I'm like, I don't know if she's a purple kind of person until I have data that suggests that you are, because it would be too expensive to make that assumption when I could just sell you pink. And that's a data point. Yeah, and so it's no longer an era where we're just dealing in inputs to productivity that are noted in research. It's all around us. It's in physical products that we engage. It's in non-physical products that we engage. It's in healthcare. It's in insurance. It's in banking. It's in transportation. It's in teleco. It's in energy supply. It is in everything. And I think the best way that we claw back that equity is not just company by company. I think we certainly have the technological tools to do that. And there's some great ones coming out. That's the real reason I'm going to Finland is I'm going to this My Data conference because they're demoing a lot of products that help codify and distribute at least a suggestion of value for input to data riddled products, which again is every type of product. But I think there's another policy play that we have to attack here. Let's say a few years ago, 2019, the U.S. economy made about $7.5 trillion of GDP. For anyone who's not familiar, gross domestic product is a measure of transactions. And just like these data transactions, that's why New York, LA, Chicago, Atlanta, they foster more transactions because people are in closer proximity, comparing ideas and making things. And so the GDP is higher in those places. It's a hotbed of energy of transactions. When we look at the amount that we make in GDP nationally or even locally, about 50% of that is spent on creating products and services and taking care of overhead. So that's just like what it costs to operate. The other 50%, people who own valuable entities, people who own property. Property could be a company, it could be a house, it could be whatever. They keep the rest of that. I think that half, a quarter of total productivity is actually productivity owed to a stakeholder class. But as humans, it's not just an American issue. We do not identify the stakeholder, the core giver of input, the core data provider as a participant yet. I think that the next wave, the next economy, as inclusionism overtakes the failures of capitalism, because really what we see here with the sexism, the racism, the anti-DEI movement is everyone feeling like I don't have my piece of the pie that I was promised. I don't have my American dream. I'm not getting my piece. And I feel like I may not feel like how James feels about himself, but I feel generally good about me until he walks around. And I'm like, I could do a little bit better. So I still want my piece, right? That's a joke. I still want my piece. And our piece is about $2.5 trillion a year. And that is more than we spend on all social services that will prop up our quality of lives. It's what we spend on the 0th rung of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's more than what we spend on housing, food, and clothing, and transportation. And so we know we can afford it. But right now, a few ugly people like Larry Ellison are allowed to buy up everything around us, and Elon Musk and all these other weird looking people who, if you took away all their stuff and you stood them right next to me, they would not be desirable, but they soaking up too much of the value. So I think they should either send us about $2.5 trillion or send their lives over to my place. That's just what I think. They owe me some. I'm making it cute out here for them. But anyway, that is actually how it works, right? We are the core input to productivity. We are owed a piece of that pie, and we can demonstrate it mathematically how we get it back. And we've written it all down. Yeah,
it's interesting. It's upside down, isn't it? You know, the stakeholders, and maybe it was that way, and we didn't like it that way, where all the people who were making decisions were, at that point, the stakeholders used to be the people who were owners of the companies and people who created things. Now the stakeholders are really us.
Well, they should be, but we don't have a legal regard for it. We will call the owners right now shareholders. What I'm saying is I think we need a new class of stakeholders separately from shareholders, because shareholders are bigger risk takers. They go, you know what? I like what you're doing. I want to invest in this. Let's see if we can grow the value 2 times or 20 times, whatever. Fine. Right. We have a legal framework for that, right? We do a lot of that in IP law. It is debatable, and it usually loses, because I've done this argument a million times with lawyers. The IP argument, I think, well, there's intellectual property, meaning that you are intentionally aware of what you're toiling away to create, whether you're toiling is with your fingers or it's just all up here. That's intellectual property. I think this is a separate type of property that is kind of, it's involuntary, it's ignorant. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's not intellectual per se.
Not aware.
We would call it like a nescient type of property. And I do not mean nascent for anyone who thinks I'm misspeaking. I don't misspeak. So it's that type of property. But I think we can codify that and make legal arguments around owning it so that we can at least ask for indemnification after our inputs have been used to create productive products and services. I think that's where we're going, but that is a political feat. We'd have to argue it well in case law, and I think codify it into legislation. I think it's where we'll have to go to rein in whatever AI will become. So
that was going to be my next question. What is an example do you have of that? If it were to work out, what example would you use to continue on that continuum?
I think it would look like the Mag 7, if anyone's not familiar, the largest 7 technology companies paying a data dividend as a universal basic income to people for their input. You know, it would be like I was in grad school when Mark Zuckerberg was creating Facebook because he couldn't find a girlfriend, and I had all the ones that he would want in Cambridge. And I think if you have to create tech to compete with a cat like me, you still owe, and this is problematic when people go like, we're being inclusive and funny looking people. I know that's not DEI language, are included and nerds are included. There's something to be said about interesting, attractive people, and they are still worth whatever the dime is that we want to pay them. And I feel like Mark owes me for building. If anyone doesn't remember what a Facebook used to be, it used to be what they would give you in your dorm or your school to show you how everyone looked. And dudes, because we're all toxic bastards, would sit around and rank the girls. And that's what we did on Facebook in 2005 is we just talked about women at that point. I was 23. And my point is these weirdos have created technology companies to catch up to me, which is ridiculous because they never will. And I feel like they still owe me. They still owe me, just like the girl they always, fawned over was at like my frat house. Like they still owe me. They still owe me. And so what it would look like, to answer your question, is him paying someone like me a data dividend for making his platform worth being on in the first place. Because when I come, everybody coming to the party. They only got on because we were on there. They're like, oh, the cool boys are here. That is the truth. That's actually happened. We are in, I'm that age group. Anyway. So Mark, you owe me some money. And your wife. Y'all both owe me.
So,
I mean,
speechless, doesn't he?
they owe me.
We did it. And we didn't even deal with
master fit into that.
Are you thinking about running for public office? Is that anything you'd be willing to talk about?
Sure, I'm thinking about it. We're running the data right now. We got to run the data. So I got my guys are running the data. We might run for Congress here in Harlem. Again, I ran in 2020. I got really sick with COVID. And so we stopped the campaign in late February, early March. I was down. I was sick that first week in March. You couldn't really run against an incumbent during the pandemic. But we still got a quarter to vote. And so there's been some new things happening here in New York with the new Democratic nominee for mayor, and also a lot of demographic shifts. A lot of Black and Latino people uptown. I live uptown. If anyone's not familiar, that just means the top of Manhattan. Harlem is not a different borough. It's just a neighborhood, but a big grand neighborhood, a neighborhood that's bigger than Cleveland. But anyway, so
is that right?
Yeah, there are more people here than Cleveland. Yeah.
Wow, didn't realize that.
That's why
I know Harlem is beautiful.
Like, what did I do? Whenever I leave New York, I'm like, I'm in the country. And I'll be like in Chicago. And I'm like, all these tumbleweeds are crazy. It's weird leaving New York, but whatever. And people go like the guy with the orange fingers is weird. But
Wait a minute, but tell her where you were born.
well, what?
Where you were born. You were born in New York.
I was born in Detroit. I'm a refugee in Detroit.
Yeah.
I was born in a wasteland.
A refugee, really?
Terrible place.
Refugee?
Terrible. In my opinion, terrible place. So yeah, refugee in Detroit.
There.
Huh? All of our
family
families there. We
there.
light skinned. Every light skinned person's in Detroit. Everybody in Detroit look like Aaliyah or me. We all there. Everybody, of course, your family is there. My family is there too. They all still stuck there. They couldn't get out. So I live in Harlem now. And I ran away from Detroit 26 years ago.
But you went to Tuskegee. How did that happen?
I went to jail, and they were like, you got to get the hell out of Detroit, or you're going to be either get somebody pregnant or stay in jail. So I went to Tuskegee as an at-risk youth. Yeah, my parents were like, you got to get out. So they sent me to the country, and I learned a lot about the world. Tuskegee was a great place to mature. It was a nice pause. But yeah, we went to jail for larceny. We used to steal those triple fat goose coats from Lord and Taylor and then sell them to boosters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those.
Yeah, back then you can get the ink blotter on the coats off with refrigerator magnets. It was the 90s, so yeah. You just rub them together, put the coat in the shoebox, go out, boom, you at the club that night,
What?
Yeah, it happened. I was the bad boy. You didn't want me coming over the house, Nobody's mom liked me, but I was real nice. I was real good with moms, but
Oh, I bet you were.
I'm still my mom still loves me. I'm an old man now, so everybody mama love me now. But anyway. I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
I can't believe I'm saying all this on this podcast. Anyway,
yes.
It's entertaining. It's just entertaining. These are all jokes, folks. I'm just a writer. I'm making all this up. Anyway, but yeah, I got lucky and I went to Tuskegee. We didn't know what it was. My cousin got in and my parents were like, you should go because you need support. You're a follower. When they realized we were the ringleader, when we had to talk to the judge to get our records expunged and he gave us probation, my parents and my uncles and aunts, because we got arrested with my cousins, they were so embarrassed and we felt so sad. It was good. It scared us straight, Yeah, so we went to Alabama, and it changed my life. Yeah. And I'm in New York. So yeah, we're thinking about running for Congress in New York again. So that we can tell more jokes to people about Mark Zuckerberg and people's mom and data.
Of course.
That'll be our platform. Your mama.
Don't forget Mary J.
Your mama's data and Mary J. Mark Zuckerberg.
New Yorkers. You got to keep the New Yorkers in there, right?
Exactly. Right. No. No, look, we look,
getting to you NYU from Harlem is a hop, skip, and a jump, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just right on the train. It's Washington Square Park is it's 30 minutes away. So it's all right here. Yeah, if anyone's not familiar, you're right. NYU is right here in it's in Manhattan. They have an interesting business model. They have that kind of global campus thing. So there are a lot of NYUs and other places, but the main one is here. So I'll be down there at 6 or so o'clock today. But New York has been good to me. It is too expensive, which is one of the reasons we're considering running. There's a lot of issues here around equity, around housing equity, around just dignity in general. But I will say we pay a people premium here. And you get to meet some of the most interesting people on the planet, even though we all live in small boxes. It is it's worth it, I think.
Well, James, to me,
I love New York.
Makes you really feel so deeply the idea of DEI because you live with those differences every day and it can work. Yeah. You live in a place like New York, which draws people from all over the world. So the idea that we can't live together just doesn't make sense to you. it's like, what do I need to do to
Right,
make
we're all here together. Right,
that and work with that?
we're all here together, and I mean, we may not even like each other, but we're respectful enough to be here together. If I walk, 10 blocks down, I'm going to hear 7 or 8 different languages because each block has a bit of an enclave on it. We just had a big group of French-speaking African immigrants who moved into the area, and like you hear them speaking, and then you hear Arabic after that. You obviously hear Spanish and English, but yeah, it's just normal to us. Everyone's here.
Chinese, yeah.
Chinese,
And can you imagine going in New York anywhere on any corner and not being able to get whatever kind of food you want to get?
Yeah,
that is weird. All night long too.
Yeah,
it's considered to be a good thing, a positive thing, not a negative.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's why even when some of the arguments, so like we have a lot of activists who are kind of pushing us to run right now around housing prices and housing justice and in general. And some of the economic arguments that older politicians, not older age-wise, but just more run-of-the-mill politicos are making is that, if we tax the rich or invest in rent control housing or invest in more people who look like us being able to stay here because we're not easily invited into the jobs that would allow us just to afford to stay here by working a 40-hour week, they go, we might lose our tax base and people will move. But we've never seen data, back to data, that supports that people leave New York once they get here. It doesn't happen at scale. And I've been to like the other 3 cities, to London and Paris, and they don't compare to New York. My biggest fear is that there's nowhere to go. Like being in New York right now, I just go, when I'm in Philly or Chicago or Atlanta, it's so quiet. And I'm sad because there's nowhere to go but Midtown. But it's still cool in Midtown. We're at the center of the universe, folks. And for everyone hearing me say that, I'm like, this guy is ridiculous. But you're right, I am. Because I live at the center of the universe.
Well, it's New York. I mean, you can't even take away from that argument, whether you want to live in the city. I don't want to live in the center of the universe.
We don't want to live in the city.
I want the quiet. But we are 2 different generations. I'm in a very different place. It would be nice to have all kinds of food available, but since I lost my taste and my smell, it doesn't matter to me anyway. I mean, all sorts of stuff makes it, all of those pieces, what you can get for food, what you can get for living arrangements, all of that is something that's negotiable. And even if you don't have what you came from, which is probably what you're most comfortable with, it still works. Right? It still works. And the thing is, that's because you've got a place and people around you who want it to work.
Yeah, they do. They want it to work.
Different when you have somebody who doesn't believe in the value of it, so they don't necessarily want it to work. Right? I want everybody to be exactly like me, or I don't feel comfortable.
No, I think that part is critical. That people want it to work. Again, even when we think about the organizations here, people want it to work with everyone, for everyone. They're willing to take in that data to understand, can I modify this product? Can I make it better? There's a Chinese Mexican fusion place around the corner, and when you walk past, you go, do I want to eat here? And then you go and it's like, you know what? This is great. Because to your point, they want it to work. They're looking at the population around them that like Mexican food, like Chinese food, and they're like, what can we? And the owners are a bit innovative, and so they're offering something really new and they've been open forever. So the people are apparently enjoying it, right? So, I think food is a great example of that. Yeah,
exactly. It's been very much is. It very much is. It signifies much more than we think it does. But every culture has their thing about food and how we gather around it and what it takes to make it. And everybody has their history on that too. So,
and we all
have another example.
Who doesn't like pizza or macaroni or some of the other things that have come because those people have come.
Other people, yeah.
And then how do you enact the executive order to stop DEI if you take away pizza.
Right. No, all of that stuff. And we make those
Imagine.
arguments on LinkedIn all day. We go like, this is DEI, or someone wish someone happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm like, that's DEI. Like, you know, like they're gonna open a new place next to the place I mentioned called Mama Sushi, which would be kind of Latin and Japanese. And we'll see how it goes. You know, for me, I'm not a huge sushi person. I like a sushi, but if the mama part means they'll fry it, I'm gonna eat it. Deep fry any of it and put lemon pepper on it. I'm like, okay,
fried raw fish, okay. Lemon pepper.
Give me some fried fish and fried rice and a ball and a bite size. Oh, come on. Can't beat that. Can't beat it.
Oh, James, pleasure. It's
so much. You silly man. It's been a hard day. And I always love it when you can have fun and learn stuff at the same time.
Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, they have to be mutually exclusive, and you are such
a lot of fun. Yes.
Well, thank you.
I have just a few more questions for you just before we go. I want to ask you, and I want you to take me seriously. What's your favorite color?
That's hard. Favorite color? I don't know. It's not red, I'll tell you that. You know, like gray.
5,800 more to go.
Is that a color? Is that backdrops because you can put anything on it? You know, let's go with green. Let's go with green. Green.
Okay.
I had to think about
that. And what's your? Well, green is money, and you're an economist, so it makes sense. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, okay. My favorite movie is, this is gonna sound bad, is You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. My husband and his friends are all like film English major people, and they constantly tell me why it's a bad movie. I think the reason, I'm not exactly sure, but it's still my favorite movie. But I think the reason it is because there's no noticeable climax. I feel like life is stressful. And this particular movie, the part that's supposed to be like the peak of strife in the movie is not a real peak. It's still kind of chill. So I just like the movie. And Nora Ephron makes the Upper West Side of Manhattan enchanting, and it makes me want to eat bagels and fall in love. And so, yeah. That's my favorite.
Oh gosh!
You just had an anniversary.
Look at that again.
Yeah.
A what?
An anniversary recently.
Oh yeah, we keep having them every year. It's like 12 or so. This is it. This is my last anniversary. Though.
Keep having them.
It's over. It's over after this. I'm kidding. Yeah.
I know you was. You say that fast for your husband.
If he can take this man for 12 years, let me tell you, you need to keep
he good to go, right? Might as well do another 12.
Out. He just lets James sit, and it's like whatever.
Yeah, we might as well do. I think we're gonna try to do another 12. That. Give it a go.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah.
Where, if you can go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
To Madison Square Garden.
You'd walk to the place you can go anywhere in the world?
I feel like I've been everywhere I never wanted to go. You know what? If I have to do one, maybe Iceland, like those little, those pools they have with the smoke coming up, the Fountain of Youth. Yeah, I'm fine. I don't like traveling.
Sulfur pits, I think they're called.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't even know what they're called. It just looks interesting online. I don't know that I would ever get to go there because I don't have any business there. I just kind of travel for business. I lived in China, I lived in South Africa. I've been on a million beaches. Sands gets everywhere. I'm not a big beach fan. Like my ideal of a vacation is being anonymous in New York at night at a rave. And I've tried it in London and Paris. I'm an English speaker, so London is a little bit more interesting than Paris, but most of those places are just not interesting to me. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't mind being places. I just hate going there. I hate the work of going. Like I don't mind being at the Terry College of Business. I just don't want to leave to walk there. If I could teleport, fine. I do not like traveling anymore. Maybe it's a phase. It might go away. But I can't think of a single place that I'd like to be.
I get that.
Yeah,
I get that.
I'm good, but I'll go. Like I'm gonna travel to Europe and try to come back in. They'll probably arrest me and check my phone for calling Trump orange on Facebook. So then then I'll be in El Salvador. I don't know. I'll be somebody's wife or something like that.
I just realized that your nails aren't black, or you don't have.
I was going to ask you about it.
Oh, so they were henna. My hands were black.
You do have henna on them. I'm not used to seeing you with regular nails. I mean, you always
are regular.
There you go. It was like
I put this orange henna. So it was black henna. You know how sometimes my fingers are black from the henna. Then it grows out. Well, the skin just goes back to normal, but the nail keeps the black until it grows out. But the other day I put like red and orange henna on, so it turned.
That's more like the gel. Okay.
Okay. So I was concerned. I was going to ask you when we were off camera if you had frostbite or something.
Going on.
Usually colors them. His nails painted black or henna on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing. I'm like,
it's Sudanese. Yeah. Yeah. I started doing it when I was in Joburg back in the day. Like I lived there in like 2007, and anyway, just met all these people who wore henna a lot. And if people look it up, if they look in the history books, in the Nile Valley, various countries over time, it was considered, culturally necessary and normal to have a bit of henna on. Yeah, to not have any on was like, who is this weirdo who doesn't have any henna on? And obviously that guy,
it was almost like an outfit. Part of your outfit was in the way you would see it. It's like you get ready for this. My sister wears it. She loves to get henna done. So she's giving me all the education on that.
Yeah, I keep it right here in the house. You put other stuff in it.
Oh, you do it yourself?
Yeah, I just do it. I just sit here and do it. When I'm bored. Yeah, I'm bored. I suffer from boredom, which is why I don't like to travel anywhere, because these people are not interesting. I am. So as I am, I'm mad bored. So sometimes I just stain my hands red and black because I ain't got nothing else to do. The work is easy.
Oh, really?
I know what I'm doing. So I'm supposed to just tell people what to do all day. It gets boring. So yeah, I've been diagnosed as bored. So
diagnosed as bored. Thank you. We will not bore you any further.
This was fun. Now this was fun. Y'all were fun. Yeah.
You were a lot of fun. I appreciate you so much. It's just my stomach hurts. My throat was already hurting before I came in. Now it hurts worse because I'm holding back some laughs. I don't want to mess up the sound and all that because my God, you are a lot of fun. And I can't wait. We can meet up one day. We can meet up all of our guests in one place and have a nice little something. Maybe we'll have to do it in Harlem because you don't want to go anywhere.
I will come. We can do the UGA. We can do Buckhead or Harlem, wherever y'all want. I'm around. I'm always traveling, even though I complain about it. I just like to complain, but I'm always in the airport. I'll be in the airport.
When you come to Texas, I'm in Texas. And when you come to Texas again,
I gotta come to Dallas actually to help a friend who's a judge down there. You all should have her on the show. Actually, she is a judge in Dallas who just passed a regulation for the criminal courts. It's passed in the felony court, but not the misdemeanor court, and it's called an anti-discrimination policy. And essentially, they're targeting people who have demonstrated any sort of bias or discrimination, especially they can identify like online, as court appointees because they're realizing via like Facebook evidence that defense attorneys, et cetera, and some judges are saying sexist, racist, otherist things online. And so she got this anti-discrimination policy passed, and now the Governor Abbott, has created all these commissions, to get her off the bench. And
Sure.
I was just texting right before I got on here with a bunch of Al Sharpton's people, like I need to go down and support her. Her name is Judge Amber Givens, and she was a year ahead of me at Tuskegee. Yeah, and she lives down there in Dallas. But yeah, I know a lot of Dallas and Houston people. I need to come kicking it. I've never been to Austin, so are you a Houston person or Dallas? Okay, yeah.
Houston area, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was actually just talking to some. I know a lot of judges down there. I was talking to a Houston judge, Deshaun Jones.
The Deshaun that I met in Chicago?
Yes, he was on the panel with you.
Yeah.
Him and his wife are on at a wedding of a friend of ours. They being real fan. They're on Lake Como. I've never been there. I don't want to go, but I wouldn't mind being there.
Where?
We talked about there with travel. Lake Como. It's in where they do the F1 races. Lake Como. You know they got. I'm at a loss.
Florida?
No. It's in Europe.
In Europe.
Monaco.
Okay. I don't think about
Monaco. Yeah.
Monaco.
See, we have another friend getting married out in
lots of gambling. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking about like the
exciting.
Ocean movie was out there with George Clooney and them. But yeah, maybe Texas. But yeah, I'll send you all a contact. You all should meet Judge Amber Givens. People should hear her story more. She's been in the news a lot in the Dallas area, but she has been heavily targeted since passing that law. They said she created a racist lawyer list, which is not true. They're like making up various types of misconduct and you name it to try to criminalize her to suggest she's this radical. But she's not. She's just a fearless, distributor of justice and the law. And I actually was taken aback when I had her on my podcast because I didn't realize that judges wrote policy until I met her. And she's like, yeah, we certainly can, but people don't because they're worried about being targeted and other things. And she was like, but again, when you see her, she's fearless and gorgeous and she's just
all the things.
Superwoman.
Wow.
You'll send us her information?
I will send you her information, yes. And everyone should Google Judge Amber Givens.
And then you should reach out to her.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Fight for the equity we owe ourselves at votejfk.org.